As the Magpies are charging towards potentially a 17th VFL AFL flag, the elder statesman, Scott Pendlebury, is putting together not only another fantastic season for his age, but also I kind of want to bury that narrative a little bit. The look at what he's doing at his age, instead of just actually looking at what he's doing. So in terms of his contribution, why his role and the role of a few others is actually going to extend his career, and why he is almost the most vital cog in the Collingwood machine still at about aged 47. I know he's not actually 47. This is the internet where you kind of got to explain your own jokes, but alas, here we go. My name is Daz. I talk footy. That's why the channel's called Daz Talks Footy. And just today, I launched my membership. If you want to become part of the Daz Talks Footy inner circle, it just shows your support for the channel, guys. And plenty of perks will be coming with it as it evolves, hopefully. So if you want to become a part of that, the link is in the description. You can also find it if you just click on the Daz Talks Footy banner, I should say, just underneath. You can go check that out. Or if you want to do something that is completely free of charge, why don't you go ahead and click that like button and the subscribe button and all of those good things. Now, I am doing this video for one very basic reason, and that is I don't want to talk about Carlton. I'm sick of talking about Carlton. My opinion on them has not changed in the last 3 weeks. So, back to the Pies. I think the Pendlebury conversation is really important because he's kind of the only midfielder that doesn't actually get talked about anymore, which is crazy. Because Nick is going to get the kudos that Nick gets. Whether you love it, whether you hate it, whatever it is, I find it incredibly tedious. Both sides of the spectrum. I find a little bit tedious how even the minuscule things that he does gets overwhelming praise. I also think it's really tedious how people complain about him so much. I don't think he necessarily has done anything wrong and is a genuine superstar, but also I can kind of understand media lethargy towards the way a player is treated. So, that's where I stand. Kid's a freaking superstar. If he's not in your top 3 players in the competition, I just think you're incorrect. Anyway, moving on from that, you've got the rise pretty much of Ned Long, the return of Tom Mitchell, the outside run of Jack Crisp. The Collingwood midfield looks really good. So what the heck is Pendles doing that he's standing out not only as a point of difference, but what are ultimately the benefits of it? Well, the easy answer to that question is forward half impact. So take his stats against the Blues. So 22 disposals, 7 clearances, 7 tackles, which was the equal most with Ned Long, surprisingly enough, not the Ned Long bit, but that Pendles laid 7 tackles. He's only averaging about 3.5 this year, but they're still outstanding numbers. But 65% forward of the ball. And when you've got a guy that clean, that delicate, kicking the ball inside 50, yeah, you are in big trouble as an opposition player, right? Averaging 6.5 score involvements this season, had 7 against the Blues. And the big thing, the big benefit from the Pies that no one wants to bring up at all, he'll never get tagged again. Like, can you imagine a final, going into a final, lining up, grand final day, prelim final day, whether it's Collingwood, Geelong, Adelaide, Brisbane, whoever you think is going to be there, and let's just say the Pies are there. Can you imagine, say Geelong, because they've got 2 taggers, Oisin Mullen and Mark O'Connor, going, right, we've got Nick, we've got Josh, let's tag the 42-year-old. Like, they're not going to do that. Therefore, Pendles doesn't have to be the guy he's always been. And look, anytime you can show off the resume is going to be an amazing thing to do. But considering that he is just going to be allowed to do whatever the hell he wants and punish you as much as he is doing is incredible. His score launching numbers are above average for a midfielder. His score involvements are above average for a midfielder. His goal assists are above average for a midfielder. And the less he needs to do in the back half of the ground, the better. And I'm not saying that because he can't. That would be ridiculous. But what I am saying is that if you can get the ball in his hands from half back onwards, your scoring chains become a lot better. And Collingwood aren't actually the strongest team in scoring from clearance. They, in fact, lost the clearances tonight, well, at the time of recording, tonight against the Blues by 9. But Pendles had 5 centre clearances, which, by the way, is bonkers. And I reckon 3 of them were uncontested, which is just crazy. But considering, so out of his 22 disposals, 8 of them were contested. So considering that you are going to not need him to be at the bottom of the pack, hello, Tom Mitchell and Ned Long, can those 2 thrive in the midfield together all game? I'm not sure. It was a decent litmus test tonight. They were both pretty good, so I'm going to reserve judgment on that until I get more information, as I think most people should adopt in everyday life, that kind of principle. However, so you've got those two that are going to do the grunt work. You've got Nick, who's going to get the attention. You've got Crisp, who's going to be your damaging outside player. And you've got Pendles, who for so much of his career has been either half or majority of the cake, right? Whether it's him and Dane Swan, part of the midfield cake, right? Now, he's the frosting. And I love it. And it's why it's going to be like, could he win the Norm Smith this year if Collingwood win the flag? Yeah, he could. Do you know how bonkers that is? That he's that age and it is entirely plausible that he can be, and I would almost back him in to be, in the top 5 best players on the ground, even if Collingwood lost, and would happily think that he could be top 3 if Collingwood won, especially in a final. And he only got a couple of Brownlow votes last year. I think he's actually gotten single figures for the last 2 years. And look, I'm not saying that's going to change, but if you are going to allow him, and I'm not saying every team's going to do what Carlton did, but he actually had less than his average amount of disposals. He came into tonight averaging 23.7 disposals. He had 22 tonight. So on just that metric, you would say Carlton gave Scott Pendlebury an under average, below average game. Now, they didn't because of everything else he did, but just on that one disposal metric, they did. So good luck if you're an opposition. Now, I completely understand where people are going to go, yeah, but he dominated against St Kilda and he dominated against Carlton. I just beg of you to watch him as a 4th option. Don't watch him as a 1st or 2nd option. And you could turn around and go, but he's better than Mitchell and Long. Yes, he is. I totally agree with you on that. If it was you were drafting the midfielders schoolyard style, he's 2nd off the board every day of the week. But the way that Collingwood's midfield are being made up at the moment, he's the 4th option. Because the 1st option in the midfield is the contested guy. It's Ned. It's Tom, majority of the time. 2nd option is Nick or Pendles, right? Because it's someone on the outside. That's the way it works, and it works beautifully. And when you think of it as like, yeah, it makes sense that your contested players should be on the bottom of a pack. Think of Matt Rowell, for example. You can kind of go, because look at what Noah Anderson and Touk Miller can do. I'm totally with you on that. However, Noah Anderson can get tagged. Matt Rowell could get tagged. You're never tagging Ned Long. You're never tagging Tom Mitchell, and you're not tagging Scott Pendlebury. So Collingwood are going to go into every midfield battle, and especially around the ground kind of battle, knowing that if they have those 4 or 3 of those guys on the field, 2 of them just have to beat the guy standing next to them. Because they don't have to deal with anything else. Because the bloke who's wearing number 35 is, and they've also got blokes ahead of and behind the ball that are going to become ultra damaging. Like Bobby Hill hasn't played in a couple of weeks, but I think as a high half forward, that's the role he should take and become another weapon force higher up the ground. Because Elliott at home, first 40-goal season, he's also been healthier than he's ever been, which is awesome. But that's what they can do. But I promise you, the whole look at what Pendles is doing at his age is a worthy conversation to have. But genuinely appreciating what he is doing as a member of that side is incredible. Because his past has been, he's either the best or 2nd best pie of all time. And if you want to include Gordon Coventry in this conversation, fine. He's 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. Happy with that. And especially in the AFL era, he's 1st or 2nd. And look, I'm not saying he's Collingwood's 2nd best player. He still might be, although I would probably put the Dacos brothers ahead of him. But he is, and Collingwood are that good that you are allowing one of the best pies of all time to go under the radar. And all I'm saying is from here on out, and he's healthy and fit, good luck. That's all I'm going to say. He had 2 turnovers. 2. From the 2 Little Ducks, 22 disposals that he had. 20 of his disposals were not turnovers. And only 2 of them were intercepts. Hence the forward of the ball bit. This is astounding. And I just think, as crazy as this sounds for the guy that he's been and the player that he is and all of these things, the fact that this still seems to be underappreciated, especially by footy media, is bonkers to me. And I just wanted to highlight it because he's a freaking superstar. Let's be honest, unless something goes really weirdly wrong, they're going to freaking win the flag, aren't they? Boy. Anyway, that's my rant over. Carlton got smacked, they're shit, and that's pretty much all that I'm going to say about the Carlton side of things. The Pies are absolutely flying. Haven't seen Pat Lipinski play a better game than that in quite some time, and good to see Tom Mitchell back. So tomorrow, guys, is going to be the Hawthorn reaction. So St Kilda, Hawthorn, that's going to be massive. Looking forward to that in a big way. At the time of recording, GWS are smacking West Coast. I don't really think I need to do a video on that game. If I do, it'll probably be a YouTube short. If you want to check out the memberships, that'll be in the description, guys. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe, join the Dad Talks Footy family. If you want to become part of the Inner Circle, that's what the membership is for. Love you all. Thank you so much for watching. See you after the Hawks. Hopefully have a win. Good night.